whether you're having moodiness and mood swings, or whether you're having an issue with your period. So maybe your period is irregular, or maybe you don't have a period at all, or maybe you have too much of a period, or maybe you have hot flashes. So some of you may be in the menopausal age group and you have hot flashes. So if you think that you have an issue with your hormones, just send me a thumbs down in the comments below, and I'll be able to see who I'm talking to today. So today we are talking about what's called EDCs, or endocrine disrupting chemicals. Now, that is something that perhaps you don't know a lot about. I certainly was not taught any of this at medical school. And the reason for that is because endocrine disrupting chemicals is a pretty recent, pretty new science. And we're really looking at what do the things in our environment have to do with our hormones. And so you guys know that there's an increase in the amount of disease that we have in our world today. We notice that there's an increasing number of things like breast cancer, prostate cancer, cancer in general is on the increase. But then we're also seeing like other kinds of diseases that are related to female reproductive hormones, things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, PMS, menopausal symptoms, and menopause coming at an early onset. But some of the other things that we see are breast development in children that are very young. So we're seeing puberty starting before it should. And so the question is, how can all of this be related to our genes? Because our genes haven't really changed. If you think about it, our genes haven't really changed over the years. So there has to be something else that's contributing, that's making us sick. And so we speak a lot about food, and we speak a lot about, stress and about our sleep. But one of the things that perhaps we're not as conscious about or aware of is the chemicals that we expose to on a daily basis, and how those chemicals are impacting our hormone levels. And that's what we're going to be speaking about today. So EDCs, so in order to understand what EDCs are, you need to understand a little bit more about what is the endocrine system. Now, the endocrine system is one of the systems that operates in our body. And sometimes when we think of hormones, we think of you're being hormonal, right? It's time of the month, or, you being a little bit moody, or whatever the case may be. But we don't actually think that we are hormonal all the time, because there's like hundreds of hormones that are flying around in our bodies all of the time. And so when we speak about being hormonal and being moody, we're really speaking about the reproductive hormones, but there are a bunch of other hormones that are floating around that are doing all kinds of things in our bodies. So our hormones are responsible for all sorts of things like our sleep. Melatonin, for example, is a hormone that tells us when to go to bed and when to wake up. Insulin is another example of a hormone that controls our blood glucose levels, for example. Then you have cortisol and adrenaline, which are the stress hormones, which basically control our fight or flight mechanism. So there's a whole lot of hormones in our bodies, aside from the hormones that are responsible for our cycles as women. So the endocrine system is comprised of those hormones, as I was talking about just now, but then also the glands, and that's where the hormones actually come from. So the glands produce hormones that go around the body and tell the different parts and the different tissues in your body what they need to be doing in order for them to function properly. So what endocrine disrupting chemicals are they are chemicals in our environment that are either proven to, or we suspect that they may disrupt the way our hormones are actually functioning, okay? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because of we are ending Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's because there's some chemicals that in particular disrupt our cycles or our hormone levels as women. And so I'm going to be focusing on 3 of those endocrine disrupting chemicals just now. But I first want to go on and tell you about a statistic now. But perhaps if you can just leave me in the comments below, how many products do you use on a daily basis? So when you're getting ready for work in the morning, or when you're going out, if you just had to think about how many products, personal care products you actually use before you walk out of the door in the morning. So I'm talking about things like your body wash, your face wash, your toothpaste, your lotion, your moisturizer, your makeup, the perfume that you spray on. If you were to think about how many of those things you actually use on a day-to-day basis, if you get the number, leave it in the comments below. There was a study, or there was a report that was issued that said that on average, women use approximately 12 products a day. They found that a quarter of the women that they surveyed actually use 15 or more products a day. And so I'm going to speak today about 3 different types of endocrine disrupting chemicals. Now, I have to say before I speak about them that EDCs, because this is a young science, we don't really know that much about these chemicals just yet. So we're still doing research is still being done, and there's the problem with the research also is that unfortunately a lot of the research only focuses on one chemical at a time. And if you can imagine, if you look at the ingredient list in those, in say for example something like your body wash, I don't know how many ingredients you would find on the ingredient label. So if you think about how many chemicals we're exposed to on a daily basis, you can imagine that it's difficult to study just one of those chemicals in isolation. And so out of the potential endocrine disrupting chemicals that exist, about 800 to 1,000 have been identified as affirmative affecting our hormone levels or disrupting our hormone levels.